Merci et bon après-midi. C'est un véritable honneur d'être ici à VivaTech aujourd'hui. J'ai le souvenir d'être devant la télé-âge de 12 ans. Je me souviens comme si c'était hier. Deux équipes d'ouvriers se rencontrent et se semblent à la suite des plaisirs années de travail acharné creusant des souterrains à travers un minuscule trou dans la roche, à 100 mètres de profondeur sous la mer. Ils se serrent la main et échangent le Union Jack et le tricolore. Les ouvriers français ont crié « God save the Queen » et les ouvriers britanniques ont crié « Vive la France ». C'est ensemble que nos deux ont construit le tunnel sous-marin le plus long du monde, le tunnel sous la Manche. Si vous voulez, je peux continuer en anglais. Oui, vous voudrez. The Channel Tunnel impressed me even at that young age. First, because the enduring bond and friendship between the UK and France. And second, because it showed the power of technology to bring us closer together and to make the world a better place. And since then, of course, much has changed. The new frontiers today are in digital technologies like artificial intelligence that will transform the world like never before. But this transforming force can sometimes raise, of course, new challenges and new questions and cause new concerns about its impact. During one of the first flights of Concorde, another pioneering UK-French project, the British government's Minister of Technology asked his fellow passenger how he was feeling on this first flight. And he said he was so nervous about traveling on a supersonic aircraft that he'd taken last communion before the flight. The minister asked what he did for a living, and he said, "I'm one of the engineers." But whatever the barriers, our two countries have never shied away from embracing change, and we mustn't shirk at the next challenge. And there's just two things that I wanted to say today, coming here from the UK perspective. First, we must recognize the powerful force for good in these technologies, which help us live longer and safer lives, give us trusted guides for decision-making, help us drive more safely while reducing congestion, bring people closer together. We must protect our environment using the planet's resources more efficiently using new technology. And of course, make governments smarter using the power of data to improve public services. And in the UK, we have been straining every sinew to make the most of this and drive forward this broad program of work. Over the last decade or so, since 2010, we've introduced cutting-edge reforms to drive this digital technology in Britain, building the UK into the leading tech hub in Europe and one of the leaders around the world. We've used digital technology to transform government and build our government digital service. And the message is very clear. We mustn't rest on our laurels, and we won't rest on our laurels. Just this last year, we published our review into artificial intelligence. Just last month, we launched a £1 billion deal to make sure we stay at the first rank of AI economies. We're investing further billions in the most high-tech infrastructure, like full fiber and 5G. And we're putting skills at the heart of the education system, digital skills, including making coding compulsory at school and funding more PhD places. In the past week alone, we've announced plans to expand the use of artificial intelligence in our health service, use the latest machine learning technology to equip doctors with the most advanced AI technologies. And Samsung have announced a new artificial intelligence research center in Cambridge, another endorsement of creativity and innovation and enterprise. And last week, London was once again ranked as the leading tech hub in Europe. But the second thing I want to say is that we simply cannot work alone. And the nature of this technology is that working together is more valuable than ever before. The nature of information and of coding is, as a source of prosperity, is that it is infinitely replicable. If one of us builds a technology, then it is available for all. And this is fundamentally different to previous waves of technology. So to make the most of new digital technologies, we need to work together and build common ground. And I'm delighted at the progress that France is making. I pay tribute to President Emmanuel Macron's leadership and how, along with Mounir Mahjoubi and the rest of the French government, they are making the case for digital technologies in France. Already the third best place in Europe for digital scale-ups, Paris is well and truly en marche. And our view of this from the UK is that this is wonderful to see, because a strong Paris makes for a strong London, a strong France makes for a strong United Kingdom, and as neighbours we can unleash together the potential of AI. And we need to do this with nations right around the world. And finally, I just want to say a word or two about the kind of technology we must build together. Because fundamentally, this is about building technology not just to replicate human functions, but to improve the human experience. We are moved by the potential and the power of artificial intelligence to bring freedom and change for the better. We've got to ensure that we build these algorithms right from the start with the right ethical underpinning. And just as we develop rules for the printing press and the motor car, now is the time to create the laws and the norms that will shape the future of AI. Algorithms are becoming increasingly complex, at times opaque, yet they are being entrusted with more and more decisions. How does a human, for instance, know that it's communicating with an AI assistant or a human assistant? What do we do if algorithms start to reflect subconscious biases around gender and race? What decisions, if any, can be left with an algorithm on the battlefield? These are real questions, and we must, as a society, confront them. In the UK, we're taking a lead by establishing our Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation. It's a world-class advisory body to make sure that data and AI delivers the very best possible outcomes for society in support of its innovative and ethical uses. It'll work with the likes of Microsoft and DeepMind and IBM and others, who are all thinking about and talking about the importance of this ethical underpinning. But no country will thrive by pulling up the drawbridge and thinking they have all the answers. So it is a priority that we work with international partners and garner opinion from around the world, because this sharing of ideas across borders is crucial to develop AI that serves humanity. Just as GDPR, which comes into force, of course, tomorrow, has broken new ground in setting standards for data protection, and I can see GDPR setting standards around the whole world, so the UK-France relationship on this technology is so important. And I look forward very much to working with France over the months and years ahead to seize the benefits of this fast-developing technology, because we are stronger together. Tout au long de l'histoire, nos deux pays ont coopéré afin d'éliminer les obstacles qui nous sont communs pour accomplir ce qui semble impossible. L'intelligence artificielle est la nouvelle frontière. Comme toute nouvelle technologie, l'intelligence artificielle a un énorme potentiel de servir l'humanité, propagant la liberté et les possibilités à travers le monde. Les gouvernements qui saisissent cette nouvelle technologie sont ceux qui vont gagner dans ce nouvel monde. Nous devons donc travailler ensemble, guidés par trois vieux principes. La liberté, travailler ensemble afin que toute humanité soit libre. L'égalité, développer les nouvelles technologies pour servir les peuples, la fraternité, travailler ensemble en tant qu'amis et voisins. C'est souvent les valeurs de la France que nous avançons. Et si nous gagnons, nous pouvons tracer un nouveau chemin et garantir que ces technologies servent tout le monde. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much for your words in French as well. This morning we had a French president speaking English. Now we have a member of the British government speaking French, so that's impressive.
I'm glad you recognized it.
Another impressive thing is that you're in charge of digital, culture, media, and sport. And for that, in this country, we have 3 ministers. So it shows that we have still a lot of progress to make in terms of efficiency. I'd like to ask you one thing first. Would you say that AI will have the capacity to re-industrialize countries, all the economies? And in other words, will it have a net positive impact on jobs, or on what side of the debate do you sit?
Yes. Just first on how we organize ourselves. All of these things, digital, culture, media, and sport, are about the digital technology and the content. So we are a vertically integrated department. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's all put together. And I feel very strongly that the impact of this technology will have an impact on jobs. It's obvious and clear. And in fact, it's already happening.
An impact, positive or negative?
The question that we face is, and the choice that we have, is do we generate the new jobs? My view is that the old jobs that are going to be disrupted are going to be disrupted anyway, whether we like it or not. So as a society, as politicians, we have not got a choice about whether that will happen. The choice we have is whether we develop the new jobs. Mm-hmm. So we very strongly support the disruptors, but we also must be very careful to support those whose jobs are disrupted on the way through. This is why the skills agenda is so important. But to pull up the drawbridge and try to say stop to this change will not work, because then we'd lose the jobs that are going, but we then wouldn't get the jobs that we can generate.
And would you say that these tools will help bring back some industrial jobs in all the economies?
Yes, and I think that the tools that are being generated ultimately have the big chance to increase productivity. But one person's productivity requires fewer people to do the task, and so we talk both optimistically about productivity and also we worry about the loss of jobs. But they are two sides of the same coin.
Another big debate going on now is about social media. Would you say that AI can help? We'll have Mark Zuckerberg later this afternoon. Would you say that AI can help police social media, so to speak, if it's needed?
Yes, I certainly hope so. And this is a really important area to get right. You know, social media is a great force for good. It brings people together. It means people can communicate like never before. But it has brought downsides. In the UK, we have just this last week announced that we will legislate on social media on internet safety. And we're going to consult very broadly on exactly how that's done. But this is about ensuring that when there are codes of conduct in place, that they're properly enforced, for instance, so that people underage can't go on social media platforms. And the big focus is on supporting children and protecting children. But of course, the technology itself has the potential to solve some of these problems. For instance, I have an app of my own, which I use to communicate with my constituents in my constituency in the UK. The Hancock app, you're very welcome to download it, so long as you can get a connection. And we have put into that app a piece of AI developed by Jigsaw, which is Google's internal think tank, which marks 1 to 100 comments according to how aggressive and offensive they are. so that moderators can more easily see which are the more offensive comments and remove them. And partly because I wanted to prove the point, we have terms of reference that say if people are rude and aggressive, then they're removed from the site. And as a consequence, we have an extremely pleasant environment. And this piece of technology and AI makes that much, much easier. So I can see the AI technologies developing to help some of these problems.
Would you say that the big platforms understand now the need to change, or is it communication?
Yes, I do. I mean, I'm sure we'll hear more about that in a minute, but I think that the debate here has moved a long way in the last couple of years. There is the concept that society will be changed by the companies and the platforms, and that governments should just get out of the way. That concept is no longer seen as sufficient. I thought that the President spoke about this very strongly this morning, about the need for political accountability. And that's the view that we take in the UK as well. But when we make these changes, we've got to get the details right, because it's the pace of how governments move and legislation moves is very, very slow. Yet
so
the pace of the technology is so
are always
fast.
behind. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. So our approach is very much a principles-based approach, and working very much with the platforms to try to get to the right answer.
Tell us, have you been really convinced by what Mark Zuckerberg said in front of the US Congress the other day and in Brussels more recently?
Well, I think that I saw some of each of those testimonies. I'm not sure they shed more light on the world, and I think that was more of a reflection on the parliaments and the legislators rather than on Facebook. Actually, I think that in what Facebook have said, in terms of accepting that there are things that need to change, I think that has been important. And the other big platforms have said that too. But actually, there's now a whole array of platforms which have millions of people on. And too often the debate is about Facebook and Google and to a lesser extent Twitter. Actually, making sure that there's a level playing field for all big platforms, the big platforms and the medium-sized platforms, I think is important. Facebook are undoubtedly moving in the right direction, but there's clearly much more to do.
We have a few seconds left for one last question, but as you mentioned, GDPR is coming into force tomorrow in Europe. Is it, I mean, we all know it's about privacy, it's about protection of data. Is it too much or not enough regulation?
Oh, I go for the Goldilocks answer. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just about right. Like everybody in this room, I've enjoyed unsubscribing from a whole series of email lists that I didn't know I was on. And that has been a process that some people have got annoyed about and some people have enjoyed. But the truth is this, it demonstrates in reality that this regulation is about putting power in the hands of the citizen. Because citizens right across Europe, and in fact right across the world, I've been struck across the world, from US and India and Japan, how much they're taking GDPR directly on board. Citizens across the world are getting these emails, putting them in charge, and consent is at the heart of this new regulation. I think it's a very good thing, and even after we leave the EU, we're going to keep it in the UK because we think it's a good standard.
Matt Hancock, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming to Paris.